You notice the way your phone stays quiet longer than it should. You check it anyway, not because you expect a message, but because part of you is scanning for proof that you weren't forgotten, proof that you didn't imagine the distance. You replay a conversation from days ago and wonder if you talked too much, or not enough. You remember nodding at the right moments, laughing softly, holding something back. And afterward, when you're alone, your body finally exhales, your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches. That relief tells you something you don't usually say out loud. You don't feel lonely in crowds. You feel exposed. You move through social spaces like someone carrying a glass object inside their chest. You're careful not to bump into anyone, careful not to drop it, careful not to let anyone ask what it is. So when people say you have few or no friends, it sounds incomplete. It's not that simple. It never was. You've noticed how easily people talk about their weekends, about casual plans, about calling someone just to talk. You listen, you mirror, you respond politely, but there's a small delay inside you, a hesitation most people don't see. Your mind checks the room before your heart moves. And if this feels uncomfortably accurate, you don't need to react. You don't need to explain. Just stay with it. Because people who have very few friends often aren't missing something. They're carrying something. There's a quiet pattern here. Not a flaw, not a disorder, a pattern. And it shows up in 5 very specific ways. Not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. The first pattern is this. You sense emotional shifts before anyone names them. You notice when someone's tone changes by half a degree. You feel it when a room tightens. You can tell when a joke lands wrong, even if everyone laughs. Your body reacts before your mind explains it. You might not say anything, but you adjust. You soften your voice. You shorten your sentences. You pull back just a little. Most people don't notice you during this. They just experience you as calm, easy, pleasant to be around. What they don't see is the constant internal calibration, the way you're reading the emotional temperature like it's your responsibility. This makes you deeply perceptive. It also makes you tired, because when you can feel everything, connection stops being casual. It becomes careful. There's a moment you know well. You're in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly you feel it. A subtle click inside. That's the moment you decide how much of yourself is safe to show. You don't think it in words. Your body just knows. And that's not something most people live with. Every 60 or so minutes, there's a quiet truth that lands. You're not detached, you're alert. The second pattern is harder to explain, but you live it every day. You are deeply self-contained, not closed, contained. You process things internally. You don't reach outward when something hurts. You go inward when something meaningful happens. You don't immediately think, who can I tell? You think, let me understand this first. So your inner world becomes rich, layered, precise. You notice patterns, you connect dots, you remember details from years ago, but this also means your experiences don't get socialized. They don't turn into shared stories. They stay with you. People bond by exchanging small pieces of themselves quickly. You don't work that way. You offer depth slowly, and most social environments are not built for that pace. So friendships stall at the surface, not because you're incapable of closeness, but because you don't rush intimacy. There's a sentence you've never said but have felt. If I bring this out, will it be held carefully? You don't ask it consciously. Your body asks it for you. And often, the answer is unclear. So you wait. A soft line settles here. You don't lack connection. You require resonance. The third pattern is one people almost never get right. You are comfortable being alone, but not because you don't want people. Solitude doesn't scare you. It regulates you. Being alone is where your nervous system resets, where you don't have to monitor reactions, where nothing is expected from your face or tone or timing. You might even enjoy long stretches of isolation, reading, walking, thinking, creating. Your inner world is active, alive. But here's the part that's rarely understood. Your comfort with solitude makes others assume you don't need connection, so they don't check in, they don't reach out. They assume you're fine, and you don't correct them, because needing something feels heavier than carrying it yourself, so the distance grows quietly. No conflict, no falling out, just absence. If this resonates, you don't need to comment. But if you want to, writing me is enough. The fourth pattern is subtle, and it often hides behind competence. You learned early how to be emotionally low maintenance. You don't ask for much. You don't complain easily. You don't create scenes. You handle things. When something hurts, you rationalize it. When someone disappoints you, you adjust your expectations. When you feel unseen, you tell yourself it's not a big deal. This makes you easy to be around. It also makes you invisible. People rarely notice what you need because you've trained yourself not to show it. Not because you don't have needs, but because you learned that having them didn't lead anywhere safe. So you become the one who listens, the one who understands, the one who gives space. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop being someone others lean toward. You become someone others lean on. There's a quiet sentence your body learned a long time ago: don't make it harder. And you've been following it ever since. Here's a soft truth that lands gently. You didn't become low maintenance because you were easy. You became low maintenance because you adapted. The fifth pattern ties all of this together. You don't feel understood unless someone sees your inner logic. Not just your behavior, not just your kindness, but the reasoning behind your silence, the care behind your distance. Small talk doesn't satisfy you. Neither does constant contact without depth. You're not looking for attention. You're looking for recognition, for someone to notice the way you choose words, the way you pause before responding, the way you remember small things others forget. When that doesn't happen, friendships feel hollow, performative, like you're playing a role instead of being seen. So you pull back, not dramatically, just enough. And over time, you end up with very few people around you, not because you rejected the world, but because the world didn't meet you where you live. This is where meaning begins to form. Having few or no friends is not the core issue. It's the visible outcome. The deeper pattern is that you're tuned for depth in a shallow environment. You notice nuance. You value emotional accuracy. You move slowly where others move fast, and that mismatch creates friction. Not loud friction, quiet friction. The kind that makes you feel out of place without knowing why. You might have tried to adjust, to be lighter, more casual, less intense. You might have succeeded for a while, but it always costs you something. Because every time you minimize yourself to fit, your body keeps score. And eventually it chooses solitude over self-erasure. There's a moment that happens in adulthood that no one warns you about. You realize that friendships are not just about liking someone. They're about compatibility at the nervous system level, and yours operates differently. So the cost of this pattern shows up slowly. You might go days without speaking to someone who really knows you. You might feel a dull ache when you see groups laughing easily together. Not jealousy, distance. You might wonder if something is wrong with you. If you missed a lesson everyone else learned, you didn't miss it. You learned a different one. But here's the part that matters. When you go too long without being mirrored, something inside you starts to dim. Not your intelligence, not your empathy, your aliveness. You start shrinking your thoughts before sharing them. You stop reaching out even when you want to. You tell yourself you're fine when you're just used to it. This isn't a crisis, it's erosion. And erosion happens quietly. Some people realize this late. When did you? You don't need to answer, just notice what comes up. Now and only now there's space for something gentler. These traits are not problems to solve, they're signals. They point to a nervous system that learned to survive by being perceptive, contained, and self-reliant. They point to someone who learned early that depth had to be protected. You weren't built for constant social stimulation. You were built for meaningful connection. And those are rare. The issue is not that you have few friends. It's that you've been expecting yourself to thrive in environments that don't speak your language. Connection for you is not about frequency. It's about safety, not about proximity, about being seen without explanation. There are people who will recognize you instantly, not because you're loud, but because you're precise. They won't ask you to perform. They won't rush your openness. They won't mistake your silence for distance. They'll feel the depth and know what to do with it. Until then, your solitude is not a failure. It's a holding pattern, a way your system stays intact. If this video stayed with you, you don't have to say much. One word in the comments is enough. In the next video, we'll talk about why you feel emotionally responsible for others, even when no one asked you to be, because this pattern never exists alone.